Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Future Connect webinar by Reality NXT. I'm Radhanjali Raval. I'm your host for the day. I would like to welcome all our speakers and our moderator. Today on panel we have Mr. Prabhu Ramachandran, co-founder for Celio, Mr. Sandeep Reddy, co-founder PropStack, Mr. Gautam Tiwari, co-founder SmartWisks, Mr. Rohan Sridhar, co-founder Teal, Mr. Chetan Singh, founder ArtChat, Mr. R.N. Vijay, co-founder Totality. Our moderator is Kritika Singh Rawat, founder and CEO, Reality NXT. Before we begin, I would like to inform you all that the session would be recorded. To all attendees, you can drop your questions for the speakers in Q&A box. We will take the questions post the discussion. Today, the topic of discussion is the unsung heroes or the future stars, PropTech Wizards of India. Kritika, I would request you now to please take the discussion forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mritanjali. Thank you everyone for joining us for this webinar. We have got some of the best PropTech companies from India in this panel to discuss about technology and how COVID situation has impacted everyone in this particular panel. So before I begin with the proper technical questions, I would request each one of the speaker to tell us briefly for our viewers who are from different sectors, even who are brokers, who are from developer point of view, what your company is actually doing right now in the current technology space. So starting with Mr. Chetan, could you tell us briefly what your company does and how technology is playing an important role for your company?
Okay, so I'm an interior designer and I have practiced as a designer for many, many years. So during my design practice, I saw the problems which we all face. And the common problem between everybody, which I saw, was that everybody is a secretary of somebody else, which means that everybody is following up from morning to evening. ये काम किया, वो काम किया, ये क्यों नहीं किया, वो क्यों नहीं किया, and the time goes by. There are delays in communication, and there are all the time delays. So I innovated and invented ArcChat. So in a very, very simple way, ArcChat is a communication platform which brings all the project stakeholders while the project is under design or development stage together and make them communicate. And not only communicate, but communicate privately, communicate in their own language. And also all the communication is saved for each space, each drawing, each design, or each product. So just imagine if a developer is making a home and all the chat related to the living room is saved with living room. And not only living room, but also with the drawing or design or the product inside the living room. So he would exactly know कि कब क्या बात हुई, किससे क्या बात हुई. He will also know कि किसने क्या delay किया, किसने क्या delay नहीं किया. The life becomes extremely easy. And this is the only platform which brings each and every stakeholders together. Like in WhatsApp, you can't possibly bring the sellers on board because आप किसी अनजाने seller को you will not get him into your WhatsApp group. The problem with the WhatsApp is that you are, again, everybody seeing what is being talked in the group, which is irrelevant to them, and sometimes you don't want to disclose. Emails are fragmented. So we do, all these problems are sorted out, and it is a 100% free tool for everybody. So that's a great tool, and that's a tool which is for the global market. So we do have, the stakeholders, which are architects, builders, developers, the contractors, the product sellers, consultants, engineering consultants from all over the world on it already. That's what the introduction is.
Rohan, if you also could just add on to what your company is currently doing, how technology is playing an important role.
Sure. So we're creating a database for clean, searchable, and well-interpreted land records. And the problem we're trying to solve is very fundamental. Ever since the first 5-year plan in 1951, the government is consistently been talking about making land records more cleaner, more fairer, removing all the errors and discrepancies in land records. So what we're trying to do is that we're trying to create a database which can essentially be searchable, will have well interpreted and clean land records, and that'll be able to push transparency and help banks, housing finance companies, and small-time lenders in improving and automating their property due diligence process, especially when they're taking land as collateral. On the technology front, so a lot of what we do involves creating large-scale data extraction pipelines to essentially get in the data which we require. Data usually involves land records, which are Jamabandis, 712 documents, and a lot of them have been digitized by the government under the Digital Land Records Modernization Program. So setting up these extraction pipelines across India on various government websites which host these kind of databases, then ingesting it onto our servers, cleaning the data, and ensuring that it's searchable. So that is what we mainly do on the technology front. And the idea is that anybody who wants to figure out who the owner of a particular land parcel is in, say, X or Y village in India, he can merely do that with the click of a button.
So Aryan, you can.
So now I represent Totality. I'm a co-founder. At Totality, what we do is to automate all the sales lead management processes into one particular system for both real estate developers as well as channel partners. This particularly exercise helps them to have everything digitized, everything seamless at one particular place, which helps them to reduce their cost of acquisition for the customers. So in simple terms, if you are spending approximately 1 lakh rupees for acquiring a customer to sell a particular inventory, we will help you with the time and due process with all the data and insights you have by giving more insights about those data and reducing down the cost of acquisition to 33% of your original cost, ultimately saving you the money.
Prabhu, if you also can, like one by one, rather than me asking everyone, please one by one, please go ahead and introduce your company. Prabhu, you're muted.
Yeah. Hi, this is Prabhu from Facilio. So at Facilio, we offer a software platform for operations and maintenance of large commercial real estate portfolio. The way it is being done today is most of these operations and maintenance are done in a very siloed fashion, mostly at site level or per property, per building level. With our solution, we help real estate owners, operators to first centralize the operations and maintenance in a single platform so that they get visibility across their portfolio. And we also bring a lot of siloed functions into one single platform, right from facilities, workforce efficiency, asset management, energy management, and tenant engagement, all done in a single platform. So the stakeholders, right from your facility staff to sustainability team to financial team and building owners, all the leadership, everybody will get contextual access to the platform. So what it ultimately helps the building owners is that they can improve the operational efficiency by reducing their energy cost, improving the productivity of their workforce, and also improving the tenant experience, the occupant experience within their properties.
Yeah, so I'm Sandeep from PropStack, one of the co-founders. We are almost a 6-7-year-old company now, one of the leading real estate data and analytics company, covering commercial real estate, a lot of mortgage data which is basically lending to real estate developers and home loans. We also do residential and warehousing as well. And over the last couple of years, we've also forayed into financial data. So one of the key reasons of starting this company was to create transparency in the sector. And we all know how real estate has traditionally been plagued with non-transparency, and we still are, with all our efforts, we still are not there up to the mark. And if you see other sectors, look at financial sector, look at IT sector, in those sectors, data has resulted into transparency. Transparency has led to trust and credibility, which results into more investments or growth of that market. We are a large sector, real estate is a large sector, but I think data will play a key role in creating that transparency, which will take the sector forward. Uh, and if you see, that's also playing out in the last maybe 6-7 years. We've seen commercial real estate growing like uh, in the whole sector. Commercial real estate sector has grown much more than any other asset class, and that is driven by a lot of transparency in the sector, more organized players, and compare it to residential, which is more fragmented, less transparency, consumers don't trust. So I think data will play a key role in enabling growth in this sector. Now, when we forayed into the sector, into the space, we focused exclusively on commercial real estate sector. And I just like to add that, like Rohan mentioned, that they focus on a lot of land record data sets. We focus a lot on property transactions, which is unit level transactions, which office was sold, which office was leased, which apartment was sold, all of that we focus on. So the biggest challenges that we've had to solve for was that real estate is a state subject. So every state controls how they disseminate this information to institutions or users. And a lot of this data set is in local languages. So for example, Maharashtra, it is in Marathi, Tamil Nadu is in Tamil. So we have to solve for these challenges wherein we basically are trying to collate data for multiple countries, right? So India is like multiple countries as of now. So we're solving for that, putting all of this information in a way that our users can see in a standardized format and take better decisions. And we cater to institutions which are ranging from private equity funds, real estate funds, lenders, developers, co-working companies, a lot of interior design firms. Whoever is interested in looking at transaction data is using our data services right now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gautam. I'm the co-founder for a company called SmartViz. And SmartViz has created Prezi, India's first SaaS-based virtual reality product for the building industry. What Prezi really does is that it's an immersive, first of its kind immersive platform that connects architects and designers with building product manufacturers and helps them engage with each other via the use of virtual reality as the backbone technology. It enables people to work with digital twins instead of working with physical samples and physical catalogs the way the industry has typically been over the past since forever, actually. So I'm an architect myself. I worked for a bit over 2 decades in the profession. I was the global head for projects for Asia's one of the largest design and build firms in Asia, and experienced some of the pain points myself over the 15 years of extensive workplace experience that I gathered. And so that is the problem that we started out with, so an architect, I mean, if all those folks who have ever dealt with an architect typically engages with its customers via 2D drawings and 3D stills, fancy looking 3D stills, but still static 3D stills, and that does precious little for an untrained mind to understand what that design is really about. So the idea is to actually let the architects experience their designs themselves through the immersive technology by being inside the design that they eventually wish to provide to their clients. Call in the clients through its Prezi's immersive collaborative technology. You can actually hold collaborative VR-based collaborative meetings inside of Prezi, and also take care of whatever are those products that are going to be provided when the design manifests itself into a physical form, and via experiential catalogs and digital twins of products, place them into the design and finalize them at that real-time instant itself. So no more multiple iterations, going back to the office, making changes, and then coming back, and then calling in the vendors, asking them for physical samples and mock-ups, and engaging with that, and then selecting one final product. All of that can be done virtually via the platform now. So we've got over 1,000 downloads that has happened over the past almost 4.5, 5 quarters of selling, extensive selling that Prezi has been doing. We've got leeway into international architectural firms. We've got the largest architectural firm in the world using Trezi right now. We've got one of the top 5 US-based firms using the platform right now. We've got folks such as Schneider, Blue Star Air Conditioning, Welspun Flooring. They are on the platform too. So it's taking very meaningful shape now, which goes on to prove that this really was the sort of a technology that the fraternity really required, and move away from those inefficient, cost and time waste generating methods that we've all been used to since forever, actually.
Right. So thank you everyone to give that brief introduction. I'm sure our viewers right now who have joined would have understood each and individual company role in terms of technology. So I want to start with a very important question that is in everyone's mind. I'm sure it's in the mind of viewers also, that during this lockdown, we got to see how the COVID has impacted and created ripples in different sectors. So my question to each of you is, how this situation has impacted your particular company or the technology? What kind of traction have you received during this time? And the third and last, very important, have you seen the inclination towards technology, the adoption of technology happening more from the industry side, from the developer side, even from your client side? So if you guys can let us each, cover the point of impact, traction, and the adoption of technology. So let's start from Prabhu on this.
Yeah. So from an impact point of view, I would say real estate is sort of severely impacted business today. When the whole COVID thing started, things like airlines, hospitality, those were the markets that had immediate impact. But later it came to real estate in the sense occupancy levels, rent collections are getting affected. Okay. So we have to first acknowledge that it's a tough situation. Okay. But during the lockdown, what has happened is generally the advanced stage of progress for us, there has been hold, because there is a challenge of physically going to the building. The buildings are shut down, stuff. But what we have seen is customers who have been engaging with us in the early stage, mid stage of the overall sales process for a technology, we have seen uptick where customers are now looking how can they use technology to solve some of these problems. Okay. So I'm seeing the problems as like 2 layers. First one is for real estate companies, they have to make sure the occupants, tenants are confidently able to come and occupy, work. That is the first thing. So there is an operational problem, and there is always this health, security, trust problem. Okay. Customers are looking at how technology can help it, one, to solve their own operational problem, then to also instill that confidence in tenants and occupants that it is safe to come and occupy these properties. So next one is longer term. So what many of these startups we are doing, right? We are trying to bring in a behavioral change into how things are being done. Like Gautam explained that it's been a very traditional market, and you're basically changing the behavior of the users. So this has been at the scale of startups, this has been really difficult. But the silver line in the pandemic is it is forcing customers, even at the C level, to think through can we apply technology to solve some of these problems. Okay? That is at a startup scale that is helping us. But if you're like a $200 million revenue company, it is definitely going to be difficult. But at a startup scale, that this whole thought process of C-level people thinking to apply technology is helping us. So some of the trends that we have seen in operations maintenance is immediately customers are looking at things like, can we have something like touchless air. Touching these buttons, they can scan a QR code and then from their own mobile app and go to whatever floor they want. So that reduces infection. The next one is the whole cleaning schedules. Like, how do you sanitize more frequently? Some of the areas has to be clean, sanitized maybe once in a couple of hours. So they need a technology that can monitor that can make sure these being done. Plus, how can they inform or make it transparent for the occupants, so that occupants are seeing this and having a comfort that this particular space is cleaned, frequently. So medium to longer term, customers are looking at how can some of the staffs of operations and maintenance work remotely. Okay? In tech companies, remote work has been a very good support to carry on with the business. Similarly, today, most of these operations and maintenance of properties are done physically, but some part of them using technology, they can do it from home also. Okay? We have a technology that helps customers to operate their building right from their HVAC systems, switching on, switching off, changing temperatures. All of that can be done in cloud, sitting anywhere in the world. Okay? So that is something like customers are now looking at. Can we move to a model where it is more mobile-based, data-driven, cloud-based that helps in case of second waves and other things? They have an ability to go and operate their buildings even remotely. So these are some of the trends we have seen. So in general, I would say tough business conditions, but from a younger startup point of view, this is in a way helping us to bring in that much needed behavioral changes among the customers to move towards better tech.
Sure. Sandeep, you want to take this on?
Yeah. So from our product perspective, we've seen one that a usage from a usage perspective, existing clients' usage has increased dramatically. Maybe one reason is that all of them are sitting at home, but I think the larger reason is that everyone had a plan or had a strategy in place. Now, because of this pandemic, they have to revisit all of their strategies, of their next year, what they're planning to do from a investment perspective, from an asset management perspective. All of this is set up for a change. So our data helps in understanding, say, for example, let's just take some examples. If you're an asset manager, you are a landlord with multiple buildings, you would now want to know far more closely in terms of what is the lease expiry coming up in each micro market. How does that shape up your strategy, given that there could be lower demand? You have to have a sense on what kind of pricing you would be offering from a renewal perspective. How do you want to get tenants from other buildings to your building? So their strategy is all up for change, and data helps you plan better. So existing users have started using it far more than, say, pre-COVID times. We also see newer guys also now trying to look at this data set, but we've also on the other hand seen slower decision-making cycles given the uncertainty. So it's not as if all inquiries are translating into sale immediately, but there is a healthy recognition of the fact that you'll have to rely more on data versus having a gut feel of what you think will happen in the next quarter or year. We've also seen some other interesting trends. So in this whole scenario, a lot of corporates are now focusing on cost reduction, right? And there are only two cost reduction levers which companies are evaluating. One is employees, and the other is office cost. And we've seen a lot of inquiries around having rent reviews done, right? So that they can see how much rent they can save over this next financial year, and because the rent that you save goes straight to your profitability. So we've seen that, and some of the large banks we've in touch with a lot of banks as such, and we've seen that the top 7 banks, private banks, not even the PSUs, pay close to 4,000 crores of rent every year across their branches and ATMs. And imagine when they start thinking about saving rental costs, a 10% saving would be 400 crores of rentals saved, which would impact landlords significantly. So these are the things that we are seeing. We also, when we are talking to our clients, we are, and we see a host of solution providers and software providers on the panel, we are seeing that as such, developers and landlords, everyone is more inquisitive now to understand software solutions which can help them digitize the entire sales transaction process, sales or leasing, right? How can you have a personless site visit? How can you do a virtual site visit? How can you help them take a transaction decision better? All of this is also, as we speak, happening. That's my response to the question.
You have brought up some good points, which we will discuss later on. So, Chetan, you want to add on this?
Yeah, you see, what has happened is that this design and construction industry has been used to working hands-on. People like to meet, they want to work together. And suddenly, when everybody is sitting at home, there is a vacuum. कि अब क्या करें? कैसे करें? And the stakeholders are many. It's not only the architect and his firm, but it's also the contractors and their teams, it's the structure engineers, the HVAC consultants, and a whole lot of other people, the product manufacturers, product sellers. So everybody is here and there. So people are finding how to work together because COVID is there to stay for a while. So that's why there is a surge in using Zoom now, because Zoom has becoming very, very popular because, everybody wanted to connect remotely. So that's what is being happening with ArcChat also. There is a sudden demand for ArcChat which has gone up because people know that okay, हमें connect तो करना ही है. कैसे करें? How do we connect? So for connection purpose, this is now we are seeing a lot of people coming in and trying to use ArcChat to communicate on projects and be together. But I do see that this COVID situation, though it is extremely bad, a lot of people are dying, a lot of businesses have suffered loss, including me also. I'm not saying that I'm the great guy or something. But in long term, it will bring a lot of good things because it will change the work culture, the way the people are working. And people are utilizing their time. So the travel costs are going to be cut down in future, even down. They have cut a lot of other costs will also come down, the office cost and all other costs, operation costs. The freelancing is going to get a lot of promotion in this also. Because, when people are able to work remotely, they will be able to freelance and they will be able to work together. So as far as ArcChat is concerned, since we are worldwide, so we are also connecting small freelancers with the architecture firms cross-border. So for example, a European architect, he is able to give his drafting service to a guy in India, which is a great job for him. And since everything is being saved for a particular space, design, and one can communicate easily, so it becomes, the collaboration becomes very, very easy. So this technology platforms like Gautam's, solution is also extremely, I'm very impressed with it. The way he's doing it, Gautam VR, Immersive VR. So the technology is taking a big, entry into the life of people. If you look at some time back, I used to send my guy to the cinema hall, ki bhai line mein khade hoga ticket le lena. Book my show came and then the thing just happened. Like it becomes so easy to do things. So the technology in PropTech is taking a great shape, and I think it's going to get a boost in future.
Aryan?
Yeah. So first of all, yes, in a way, COVID has been a boon to the industry. In a way, there are multiple behavioral changes we are seeing, and it started as soon as the lockdown initiated. It was a sudden impact. Till then, we thought that the solution we are providing is future solution. That is, they might need in future. But as soon as the COVID-19 lockdown started, it became the right now required solution. Just to give an idea, before that, we used to approach clients that please take a demo and see this particular technology will help you. The reverse trend started as soon as the lockdown started. They started to approach us and say, we need it immediately. This is not something which says that the product is great or something, but it makes sure you get the idea that the behavioral change which is coming was not gradual. Instead of this being coming into impact after 2 or 3 years, it came suddenly, and it's betterment for all. The cost is reducing because there are low overhead costs. The gestation period has gone down from the first demo till the implementation. Virtual site visits, which we thought was icing on cake, became a necessity. We have implemented approximately 18 virtual site visits within last 1 week. This is only possible because now they have started to realize that what this COVID-19 situation is not something which is there for next 1 or 2 months. This particular thing is going to be there for a longer duration. There will be a mass behavioral change, and it's good only for the overall sector. So as like other participants were mentioning, virtual site visits, getting everything automated, getting helps of freelancers, working remotely is going to be the new working standards. That is not something which anyone is doing out of the box. That is how the industry will operate henceforth. With Totality, what we have seen as the impact is the technologies which we thought that this might be only helping tier A or a bigger metro cities are now even sought after by the smaller towns and smaller cities as well. So they are also catching up with this latest trend of implementing technology in order to increase their bottom line, reduce their cost overheads. Like someone just mentioned that touchless systems or non-human interaction systems are taking shape. So we designed a certain system like this to keep a track of human resource, attendance tracking and stuff, because as a company, we had to have the data of overhead cost. Now, where someone was mentioning that overhead cost is something which we can reduce down. Mr. Sandeep was mentioning the same. So similarly, it's only possible when you keep a proper track of it. Before this, core real estate sector had different ways of operating. They used to consider their cost per lead, marketing expenses, channel partners payout as the cost, not the overhead cost of employees. But now, since this particular situation has arisen, they are even considering that cost as a cost as well. Not about letting them go, but in order to make sure that are their marketing expenses or the channels or the mediums which they are using are really effective. Are they getting that real sale within the amount of numbers which they're mentioning? So in a way, yes, COVID in itself has been a major boon to the whole sector. Maybe the core, the construction part has obviously taken a hit because of the migrant workers and stuff and the lockdown. But overall, as a business, this will see a very positive growth, and it is seeing right now.
Okay. Gautam?
Yeah, to first and foremost, to answer your question direct, yes, there has been a surge in both in terms of free trials and like Aryan was saying, even we have seen people now asking us for demos rather than us, calling them and or the digital effort that we've been putting in terms of organizing demos. So it's unfortunate that a pandemic had to kind of make such a request come by, but we certainly seen a surge. In fact, I think our free trials. So there were two phases actually. There was the first lockdown 1.0, right, which was people were just kind of, our industry reacted typically just the way it always does. That it probably was a 3-week off and they did not do too much about it and they just wanted to sit on their hands and wait. And we've all been guilty of that. I have myself been guilty of doing that, while I was a professional. But when lockdown 2 came by, people realized, boss, this is here to stay. What Chetan said, right? This is not going away. This is not something that you can say that, hey, listen, temperatures are going to touch 35 degrees centigrade and COVID is going to burn itself out. No, nothing of that sort was going to happen. So then people really woke up to the fact that work from home is a reality and we need to be responding to that. And that's when we really saw that, free trials doubled up and requests for demos started happening. People who were like, even they'd gone out of our sales funnel, started calling us back and started asking us, hey, we met 6 months back. How's the product doing? Can we have another demo? So all of that stuff happened. But I'll just dive a bit deeper into what Prabhu said. Very important point. There is a bit of a paradigm shift that's being brought about. This is a new way of working that's being kind of proposed, and it remains. Now, as a user goes deeper into technology, they realize that, hey, actually it's pretty easy to use. It was us who chose to stay away from using it. Once we go deeper, we realize that newer technology has got more benefits that actually gives them a lot more value in return as well. Now that has become a necessity. Now there is no running away from it. Now we've realized that the standard CAD processes or the standard BIM processes are not cutting it. I'm talking about our particular solution here. So there is a need for visualizing data in a manner that is uniform across all stakeholders. Chetan has mentioned this a few times already in the session today, that our industry is fragmented. It is like multiple stakeholders. It does not start or end with the architect. No, the architect needs to engage with the multiple set of consultants, engineering consultants, mechanical consultants. Then comes the product suppliers, the manufacturers, clients, and multiple teams. So we need to have that one common base or a uniform base of interpretation of all the data that is put together. So that's what new technology helps with. It's common sense. I think it's like I said, it's unfortunate, but the only good thing that's coming out of the pandemic is that the envelope is being pushed in terms of use of technology, and I hope all of us benefit from that. Because I'm sure all of us have put in a lot of hard work creating. Each one of us has got the necessary years of experience in terms of experiencing the pain point and then creating a solution for it. So I really do hope that this pandemic is the necessity that we find ourselves in to pick up new technologies and work with them now.
No, correctly put, because during this situation, unfortunately, this situation is only helping the developers or even the channel partners to understand how technology is going to actually play a really important role. Earlier, everyone used to sell in that manner. People will still think, okay, traditional method like printing, radio is enough for my marketing or sales. But I think that will change by now. And you have rightly put it all together. Rohan, please do add your insight on this as well.
So I think, one thing which we have seen is there is a greater inclination from senior people in lending institutions to essentially like adopt new technologies. So that is a good push that is happening. There's a very interesting point which Sandeep had made on data. One thing in terms of real estate data, which we guys have experienced and how the sector works, is a lot of it depends on a lot of the data comes from state sources like state authorities, government departments. And he had earlier mentioned that there has been no registration which has happened in the past 40-45 days almost across India, and since all the offices were closed. And then he also mentioned regarding digitization of the entire transaction chain. Now, in this entire puzzle where you have to digitize the entire transaction chain, one big piece is how the government will ultimately do registration of transactions, whether they will standardize documents across all sub-registrars offices and patwar circles in India based on this to make it easier in terms of filing. So that is something which will be very interesting to see how government registration departments and land records offices adopt digitization, because with all the social distancing norms, it won't be feasible for people to go to the office every time and take out the record or actually visit an office and do registration. The other big trend which we saw was, so a lot of our business involves in assessing whether the land is safe or secure, and litigation is a big puzzle in this. So just prior to the lockdown, there were around 70 to 80 orders which are passed every day in individual courtrooms across India, and a lot of them involve property disputes or land disputes. What has happened is post the lockdown, the courts are only hearing urgent matters. So a lot of property disputes are in flux, and in some cases, individuals may require relief really urgently. For example, if the municipality is coming out and saying that, okay, I need to like take out a floor from your house, he needs that relief urgently, so courts aren't functioning. So even that would be very interesting to see how the state, which is ultimately a primary source of data for real estate, how it enhances its digitization efforts.
So the next section, which we call as future gazing, is very important right now, as we all have discussed how the current situation has helped. When it comes to future gazing, we want to understand your company is solving a particular problem right now. What is the milestone ahead? What is the next problem that you have noticed and you're planning to solve? So coming to Sandeep first, I've seen PropStack has been solving data problem in their particular domain. But the recent partnership with Strata, you have added a credibility to fractional buying. So what's next? What's the next problem that you have, gazed upon and you're planning to solve?
So yes, so over the last few years, we've seen that data, we've created transparency and all of that. Now, one of the parts of our vision is to see how this data fits into the transaction value chain and makes the transaction more efficient. And as you said, Strata is one example of that, wherein it is democratizing fractional ownership of property in smaller fractions, which so that a lot more individuals can also participate in investing into assets that are much higher ticket size, which they could not buy earlier. Uh, and another key components of that is to enable consumers to know what exact pricing is there, so that you create that trust component, which I was highlighting earlier. The more the trust, the more investments come into the asset category, and also help the investment manager, which is Strata here, to do far better due diligence and take better decisions on behalf of customers. So this is helping get us closer to the transaction value chain. Uh, and we've seen such attempts that we've also started making smaller attempts yet. But I think over the next few years, this also will be a decent size of our business. And I think would maybe something like Rohan would also may want to expand on, is how lenders do home loans today, right? Today, when you do a home loan, you apply for a home loan and then you wait for the home loan approval, that yes, your home loan is approved. And typically sometimes it takes 10 days, 15 days, and then you get a reject, because there is a whole offline process. The offline process is of title diligence and valuation, which is done by external parties. It takes time. There's a whole workflow. We want to use our data and get into this whole workflow system, so that we could visualize a day wherein you can have an instant home loan. There's so much fintech going around. You can get a loan instantly today, right? Just by applying and getting a loan instantly. But a home loan, we can't even think of it right now. But we've started taking small baby steps, talking to lenders, building APIs around how they can do an instant valuation. What is actually a valuation? Valuation is nothing but recent comparable transactions in that building, and we already have that. So how can lenders use that information? And also title is nothing but all the transactions that have happened in that property till the land, right? So we not strong on the land part right now, but on the property transactions we can actually build a easy title chain. So these are things that we think will be a very important step. And if home loans become faster and more instant, the growth of the sector will be even more. So that is uh, one space wherein we think we'll be able to add value. There are similar other things that we want to do. As I said, again, fits in with the whole transaction chain, right? We announced a partnership with Matterport. We basically going to represent them in India. Is to now enable. So we data is helping in negotiation and decision making, but as other participants have also mentioned, virtual visits are here to stay, so that people don't spend time going to sites that they may not want to visit in the consideration set. So all of that is going to happen. So one other thing is that.
Rohan, you want to add on to this?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question, the 2025 vision part, because so from where we came from, when Kshitij and me were discussing on starting the company also a couple of years back, when we did a lot of research on land records, and the problem goes back till like the 15th, 16th century, and some of the records which are available in Indian offices would go back to 1850s, 1860s, and even the government has been trying to grapple with this problem. Like for the past 50, 60 years, they've been trying to make headway towards getting to conclusive titling. There's a lot of experiment on model land tenancy laws that is happening. NITI Aayog is coming out with rules and regulations and drafting a model law on what tenancy tenure should look like. So how we envision it is that from 2008 onwards, there has been a greater push from like the primary data source, which is government saying that, okay, we're going to digitize these land records. What we envision is that if we can just leverage that particular information which the government is putting out and make it extremely, extremely searchable, it will just push the envelope in terms of transparency. If I just give you an example, and Sandeep had stressed on it earlier that India is 29 different countries, right? So the land records in Karnataka are in Kannada, Maharashtra are in Marathi. And in a lot of cases within states, the way settlement has happened is also different. So northern Karnataka will have a different set of settlement which took place, and southern Karnataka will have a different set of settlements that is taking place. So the entire procedure, processes, etc., are so wide and varied. And a lot of times, the owner of the land, so the person who actually owns the land parcel, will not be able to interpret the document which states his name. For example, in Delhi, Punjab, a lot of these areas, those documents are written in Urdu, right? The Jamabandis, the RORs, they're written in Urdu. And the terms which are being used are terms which were quite coined by revenue administrators in 14th, 15th century, and they're still part of the document. For example, so just an individual may find his name there, but you won't be able to tell what the status of his, what was the nature of the land, okay, where was the irrigation first, how much land revenue has he paid over a certain period of time, whether there's any lien by the revenue authorities on that particular parcel of land, because all that is written in Urdu, or say in Maharashtra, it will be written in Marathi. So just translating all these documents, making sense of them, interpreting them is in itself a challenge. And we hope that in the next 4 to 5 years, we'll be able to make considerable headway in this and essentially like push the envelope in terms of transparency, because the amount of benefits in terms of giving an instant home loan or taking out a mortgage on your land to essentially get agricultural finance or loan against properties for small and medium enterprises, the entire process will become very, very easy. So yeah, there are a lot of technological challenges that a lot of times we've realized that even Google Translate APIs fail. Google Map fails in finding the location. Google Map will use Google Translate will translate the term khasta into measles or like some completely different words. So those are some of the technological challenges, and it's been a learning curve for all of us, especially me, because I'm not even from a tech background. So we're just hoping that in the next 4 to 5 years, we're able to push the envelope in terms of interpreting these documents and making them public and giving access to people and lenders alike.
Sure.
Kritika, just wanted to add.
Yeah.
See, one other interesting thing that we started to experience is that, so India has a lot of public data, and I don't know why we are low on globally on transparency and all. We've seen property transaction records are public. We see MCA, which has all private companies' data is public. We have the legal data set, which is public. There's so much data public. It's just that no one has put it together. These are all islands of information which are just lying around. And when somebody puts it together, I think the unlocking of intelligence is going to be very, very powerful. We've just taken small steps by looking at property transactions and say NCA information, right? NCA gives you all loans taken by companies. And in majority of the loans, property is the collateral. Even if it's a large company or a small company, property is the collateral. So there is so much value that will be unlocked by putting these things together. We've not even started legal data. It's itself a big subject. But if you put legal data, you know what are the cases on a property, what are the all of those. And if you add all these things, there is a huge unlocking of value that will change the whole landscape and get more investments into the country. Just wanted to add that.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of interpretation. I agree with Sandeep that there is a lot of data that is available in the public domain, especially now. And it's all subject to how well you're able to interpret it and make sense of it.
Definitely. Gautam?
Yeah, so I think a lot of future gazing has been done already in terms of, and it's been mentioned a few times. I think Sandeep mentioned the collaboration that they're doing with Matterport, and I think going forward for companies that are hitting that particular stage of their growth, collaboration is going to be key. And I think this opportunity also comes from the fact that a lot of large companies out there would be looking towards startups of the kind that are there on this panel today to kind of take their technologies and offerings further. So for us, for instance, we've entered a strategic alliance with HP, where their future group devices around mixed reality are going to hold Prezi, and whatever they're going to sell in the AEC industry, architecture, engineering, and construction industry is going to be going out with Prezi in it already. So I think collaboration is going to be key. But I think and this is not about making any bold predictions or indulge in any sort of punditry here, but just going back personal experience, very day-to-day sort of an experience. I think the agility with which one can keep shaping its their offerings and products, responding to such situations such as what we are faced with, customer feedback, customer related development process of the platforms that we are all working on. I think that is going to become extremely important, because end of the day, the big thing, the only thing for a startup is show users, show adoption, and keep growing. It's not about creating a niche technology that people just kind of get wowed by. It has to be a technology that goes mainstream, gets used on a day-to-day basis, because that is where the real relevance and the value gets added. So working with the customers is going to become important. Collaboration is going to be important, and I think that's what we'll see not in distant future, but in very near future. I think it's already, with the Matterport sort of an association that Sandeep's gotten into, HP coming in, talking to Prezi, you see these are, Matterport is a fairly big entity now. HP is HP. So these guys talking to players like us means that collaboration is going to be of key essence going forward.
So Chetan, I wanted to ask, the current problem which we were discussing earlier, right now what ArtChat is facing is awareness, right? To create that awareness, to educate people about the app, how it needs to be, how it's going to help the architects, the freelance designers, and everyone. But that's the current situation or the current problem that you're facing. But do you see any other problems that might rise up that you feel can be another game changer for ArtChat?
Another problem in the industry per se?
Industry per se.
See, industry has to get aware that the technology adoption is in their favor. And as and when they start adopting a technology, the things will become easier for the technology provider as well as the adopter. So that's what I'm of the view, that people need to start seeing, okay, this is what the value which we get, and this is the value, but because of that, we will be able to save time or save money, or we'll be able to do our work faster. And that's how the progress would be, and people will be able to adopt the technology. And that, I believe, is with not only with ArtChat, with everybody. Any new platform coming up, the people here in the room, my other startups, my friends. So it's the same thing is, as and when the people adopt to the technology, things become much, much easier for everybody.
Sure. Prabhu?
Yeah. So I'll touch upon the operations and maintenance, just to give you a sense of how it is being done. So if you look at a life cycle of a building, once it is getting constructed and say next 20, 30 years, on an average, around 12 to 15% of the construction cost is spent on operations and maintenance. If you put together how much of money is spent on facilities management, energy spend, water spend, retrofits, repairs, all put together, maybe in the early stages of the building, that percentage might be lower, but on an average, that's out. So we're talking about every 6 to 7 years, customers spending the entire construction cost on this. But since globally there has been like drive towards more construction, more expansion, urbanization, naturally real estate companies were focused about how can I bring in more money, construct more, sell it faster, sell it for higher price. And the operations and maintenance was always an afterthought. And so there is a lot of scope for reduce wastage, pilferage in that. And then basically it impacts your profit also. So far it has been overlooked because the market was growing faster, they didn't go through this. Now, naturally, because the revenues are coming down, occupancy are coming down, as I said earlier, there is this is one area where customers are looking at how can they optimize so that it impacts their net operating income. Even if revenue comes down, they can bridge that gap with some sort of reduction in these, and there is a lot of scope for it. So that is even before the COVID thing, our vision with which we started Facilio is how can we move customers to a more advanced model where everything is digitized. Customers have a trace of what they are spending on and what is the efficiency level. And because naturally this market is multiple level of what you call as outsourcing. So I'm a property owner. I will outsource my maintenance to maybe a tier 1 FM company. They in turn outsource it to a local facility management company. So there is, because of this, there is a lack of transparency. So vision which we started is to move them to more cloud. How can we help customers to operate the buildings remotely? How can we use data to cut down on these costs? So that stays even more relevant now, and this is also slightly, it was more like how Aryan said, there is more of a pull effect now than we were pushing our solution to customers. There is more of pull. So from a next few years vision or overview point of view, short term is how can we help customers to cross this year? Okay, so when things are coming back, they definitely need a lot of tech help in making sure they're able to run the operations properly. And next few years is we have a big opportunity. So the mindset is building up. How can we go and globally deploy the solutions, capture more market share, and then expand the product suite so that the entire life cycle of building after construction is first to move into a, say for example, if you look at parallel markets, like how e-commerce is today compared to last 10 years back, how a food delivery market is today compared to last 10 years back. Everything is data driven, real time, a lot more collaboration, lot of efficiency. So that is a vision with which we want to execute, where we bring in these large commercial real estate owners to this level of highly efficient operations and maintenance.
So great. Gautam, as you had touched upon the right thing, which I was going to ask, we are already seeing, fintech influencing PropTech already and will disrupt further in the future. So do you see any crossfits that can happen in the future amidst all of you or with any other verticals of PropTech? Like here in this particular planner, I can actually see the collaboration happening with Trezi, ArtChat or the Totality ArtChat. So you think these kind of, collaboration across fits, as we are saying, will help each and every PropTech in terms of offering to a customer, in terms of the technology services wise, in terms of growth in the future?
Yeah, I mean, before I jump there, I think I see a lot more collaborative thing happening with Prabhu, where these facilities can offer virtual representation of the as-builts. The huge amount of as-built drawings are generated and always tagged digitally. And those, in my time, those used to be on CDs, and those CDs used to kind of get lost. And again, the architect used to be called, like, can you give me a set of as-built drawings? So now virtually on the cloud, all of those facilities can be put in terms of virtual models. But I mean, coming back to the key question, yes, I think there is going, obviously, like I said, we also touched upon this in the last track, that collaboration is going to be key, because this whole situation that we find ourselves in, it's for everyone. It's impacting all of us. It's impacting all of us together. So wherever and however possible, people will collaborate. And it's not going to be just about between startups and across industries. It's going to be small companies getting acquired by larger companies coming in asking for help, and maybe making an offer to get an acquisition offer. So I certainly, and like I said, I'm not indulging in any bold predictions here. I'm actually stating the personal experience in this entire matter, So I personally think there will be a lot of cross-industry collaboration, also a collaboration amongst companies, and it actually should have been the way a few years back. Like I've also said, it's unfortunate that we are all these thoughts we are kind of getting accepting towards embracing of opening up to in face of a pandemic. But well, so be it. It's high time we did that. And I say that whatever the question that you had, I totally am in agreement that yes, you will see a lot of those cross industry and cross company collaboration happening.
So Aryan, as Gautam clearly said that, people are opening up now during this pandemic, and even I'm sure the startups or the prop tech companies of different verticals, you all must be engaging in some kind of conversation where you can provide, like, we know where when it comes to real estate developers, they want from one particular place to have all kind of service, but they need to open up their mind that that can be, collaboration together, and two technologies can come together and provide the same service in a very better and bigger manner. So what's your say on that?
So what we personally feel at Totality is collaboration is not only the key, but it is going to be inevitable. So right now, as real estate developers have started to embrace technology, they are experimenting with multiple technologies. For cloud telephony, they will use one service provider. For CRM, they will use one. For CMS, they will use one. But the problem is, as the time goes, that will become infeasible for them to maintain. The reason being, you cannot operate with multiple technologies if they don't talk to each other, they don't bridge each other well. So collaboration will become inevitable for them. So hence, why we call ourselves Totalities, we wanted to make sure that each and every system which a real estate developer or channel partner wants to use should be compatible with this particular platform. Hence, it becomes easy for them to operate. Once they log into one dashboard, they will be able to manage all the things. Whether it is a chat like our chat, or whether it is a facility management service like Facilio, whether it is data from PropStack, it should have a proper ecosystem at one particular place where the whole team is being trained to operate on, and they don't have to juggle between different technologies, different dashboards, different data sets, and everything should be combined. So yes, for us, the collaboration is not only a key, but it becomes an inevitable part of the future. So what we see it by 2025, there will be a lot more collaboration, lot more consolidation in terms of technology. Then all the technologies will sustain, but only if they collaborate together.
Let me add a little value here. We have already started collaborating. I will give you some example. Google opens inside ArcChat. YouTube opens inside ArcChat. Zoom will open inside ArcChat in a month's time. And not only open, it's just not clicking and opening, but it gets integrated with the entire process of chat. And, platforms like Trazy, if they open inside ArcChat and ArcChat opens inside them, then the people will be able to, do what the Trazy does the best, what Google does the best. ArcChat can't do everything. So it has to be, the collaboration is the key thing, which we have to bring in everybody's value proposition and build along with the other platform.
Rohan, I wanted to know your take, because I know you guys are into right now is the land record part, but will we be seeing any kind of collaboration happening when it comes to Teal in the future, in the coming time? Now you have seen what kind of, problems are there. You have seen what kind of technology is actually needed.
So yeah, we're actually a fairly young company. Like it's been 1 year and 6 months. So our complete focus right now has only been on building a product and just trying to get as much data as we want. Yeah, so we've never really explored collaborations with other prop tech players as such. But I believe my co-founder Kshitij knew Sandeep and his co-founder before, so they've had a few conversations. That is an avenue, yes, we can and we hope to pursue in the long run, but we've not really thought of it. In terms of other strategic collaborations, we've tried to set up collaborations with various government entities and development authorities, because a lot of them are primary sources of the data which we want. And so our immediate focus is, yes, tying up with the government authorities, and maybe hopefully later on, yes, we wouldn't mind exploring other tie-ups.
So Sandeep, PropStack is actually doing a lot of conversation when it comes to collaboration, is it?
So it's our strong belief that, as you said, right, there is set of customers are the same, and rather than investing time in distribution, which is largely sales effort, you have so many products and services that are being made, and everybody trying to do the same distribution, right? So as Aryan and everyone said, right, collaboration is going to be a key, and I would call it API. So we are all saying, right, we talk about API economy. So we'll all become APIs and will fit into whoever has the largest distribution. So, and that could be WhatsApp, that could be ArcChat, that could be anyone, right? So whoever has the distribution, we just have to fit in. And I think that is happening in a lot of other verticals already. Uh, Prop tech may not have had that adoption yet. As I said, a lot of panelists have discussed. Maybe this whole COVID is helping us accelerate the adoption of a lot of technology oriented solutions in property, and we subsequently will start thinking about how we can build APIs and just integrate all the services into one. And from our side, we're trying as much as possible to get the best domestic and global partners to provide solutions to our clients, because the client needs everything. And as you said, it's a hassle for a client to be managing 10 vendors versus one vendor, and that's something that will definitely evolve, and we'll be in that time zone sooner than later.
So maybe I'll be hearing more news coming from PropStack soon.
Sure.
So Prabhu, like how Trezi and Totality has said, Festival is something they can think about. Like, would there be any collaboration crossfits like that happening soon from the Festival end, so that a bigger audience or a larger pool of technology can be provided to the clients?
Yeah. So I answered this first from a startup, like from the startup's internal point of view, and then from the customer point of view. So today, if you are building any product, it's taken that you need to have some level of APIs to integrate with other systems. So from Facilio point of view, we do have APIs where we can integrate with ERP systems or any other system that the customer has. Without that, we are not going to be seen as a very attractive proposition given this current conditions. But so a lot of companies get carried away by this whole partnership model, where my thing is, what we have observed is from a startup point of view, if you don't have a value proposition, you're building something, you are able to convince a customer standalone, and then build a business model where you are repeatedly getting a revenue stream out of it. Okay? If that is not established, all these collaborations are distractions. Because why should a customer go and choose company A and B? Both are startups, both are very young, still coming up with products. Even they have collaborated well, that's not going to happen. Like on paper, it looks very good. I've seen like people lose a lot of time on that. The first thing is we have to first catch a problem, be known for solving that problem, build a strong business out of it. Then collaboration actually comes and helps you to amplify it. If you don't have something base, you are going to find it like the collaboration is actually bringing you down. Meaning it's more of a distraction where your team is spending time with so many 6 other teams talking about it and then all the stuff. So that is a better way to go. But first establish problem, customer base, and then the collaboration is something natural. But while building on a technical aspects, everybody are anyway building with APIs and other stuff. And from a customer part of it, it's more tactical where customer asks, I want to integrate with that, we do it. So that is how we are seeing. So for example, if you take Jio and Reliance, so that's a different level of collaboration because both have very big. Okay? So that is how, like, it's a small, from my experience, 3 years, what we have seen is if you haven't solved a big problem and even the larger companies. So as a startups, we often get these BizDev people from multi-billion-dollar companies coming and sweet talking, saying that we will collaborate, take you. Those are all distraction until you are at least a multi-million-dollar per year revenue company, because they never actually turn into real business. Even if they turn, by the time they turn, like it's almost multiple years. It is better to spend time and then build your business and then go to the bigger guys so that you are able to multiply that revenue. Otherwise, you will actually are going to waste a lot of time on that. So in general, collaboration is not bad, and strategically we have to do that. But first is to, as a startup, establish ourselves and then collaborate is a better strategy.
That's like a proper fact checklist you have given, which obviously makes sense when it comes to collaboration because it needs to be beneficial for both the parties for sure. It cannot obviously bring down both of them if even they are startups. I completely agree with that. So
on the question, sorry, on the question of Gautam mentioned Facilio. Yes, obviously, like we have already integrated with a couple of digital twin vendors, a couple of modern cloud-based BIM vendors where there is traction from the market where customers are asking us if you integrate with BIM and make the BIM live after construction, that is going to be a clear value prop. So in that sense, I see that we integrating and going to the market. So we are open for it.
Great. So I want to ask Sandeep. Sandeep, work from home has become like a new norm, or people are discussing already, saying that even if the lockdown lifts up, this is going to be there for future, or at least for this year. So what is the trend, or even what is the data you have come across when it comes to commercial space absorption? Do you see any kind of fluctuation already happening, or do you see, yes, this new norm is actually impacting the commercial space?
Yeah, so good question, and I think this is on top of mind for everyone in the industry. You know, what is going to happen from an absorption perspective for the industry. Unfortunately, we still in early days. You know, I think lockdown is just slowly opening. Uh, Registration data is not yet flowing in to give conclusive evidence. It just started just recently, so you can't just base. I can't give you any analysis based on current data because that's just very thin right now. But yes, work from home will be a reality. How much is something that, you know, you have a wide spectrum of. There are two extreme spectrums, right? One saying that 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 you know 75% of our employees will work from home, which is TCS, and then there are a set of companies saying that you know our employees cannot work from home, or employees saying that we cannot. I think there will definitely be an impact. How much is something only time will tell. You know. Plus, you know, so that's the negative on the sector. The other negative would be, as I said earlier, that a lot of cost reduction pressures on corporates will lead to some pressure on the rentals. How much is something that we'll have to see, how basis data that will get registered over the next quarter, and we'll be able to give much clearer insights whether it is 5%, 10%, 20%. You know, that time will tell. So these are two negatives, but the positives also are that, you know, we are also hearing that because of this whole COVID, there will be de-densification, right? That people will, you cannot have the same number of people sitting in the same office. You'll have lesser. So will corporates, some corporates have larger spaces? Is also something that will probably add to the absorption. How much, again, no one knows. But these are the positives that could contribute to some cancellation of the negatives. We also hearing that if we are in this environment for a longer time, you know, cost pressures will be there globally on every corporate. And given that India offers the cost arbitrage, will it benefit? You know, we're already hearing India is how China may lose out on um, some of the large corporates supply chain things, right? So and then India may benefit from that. Maybe manufacturing, maybe services, all of that moving here. So that could again be a positive. So there are these two negatives and positives that will impact the sector. But I'm sure that over the next few quarters or maybe a year, it will be largely more negative than positive in the near term. And this negative thing is coming on the back of a very good absorption that we've had over the last 1-2 years, right? The sector had been growing phenomenally well. A lot of institutional demand, you know, we had the first REIT, all of that was good. But now this whole, it's a big tailwind for the sector. Unlike other sectors which are probably having a lot of negative growth or slowdown already, even before COVID, the office sector was not so much impacted as such over the last 1.5 year, and they may get impacted now more negatively than positively.
So Prabhu, if these be the trends, how will that impact you? Like, how would that impact Facilio?
Yeah. See, from initially what we are seeing is that So if you look at New York, Dubai, there have been some ease out in lockdown in last couple of weeks. We are seeing that our buildings not like 100%, but still like based on whatever local rule that is 20% or 30%. But people are coming to office, so the sign is there. How long it would take to come to like pre-COVID level of thing is still unknown. Okay? But again, from a startup point of view, because at our scale, even if part of the buildings are getting operated right, customers are looking at tech. One, to make sure at least that 30%, 40% clients they are able to hold on, they are able to come and use the office. Okay? They need some tech that will come and help them. And longer term, again, this whole operations and maintenance cost is very, very high. Plus, when you have like 20% of your buildings not occupied, the way currently things are operated, that there is no reduction in 20. The elevator is going across floors, all those things are there. So customers are looking at tech which can help them to run these buildings even with lesser occupancy. So in that sense, at our scale, we are seeing that there is a lot more adoption. But from office point of view, from early indication, it looks like people like coming to office if there is a safer way to come and do that. So it will kick off, but whether it will back to normal, like the earlier occupation is going to come in 6 months or 12 months is something unknown.
Okay. So I have the next question for SmartWiz, Trezi, and for the Totality Virtual Runway as their product. So during this lockdown, we have seen a lot of real estate developers are engaging with virtual sites. So what kind of traction you have received from the developers, and what do you think would be the future of this space offering? Like Gautam or Aryan, anyone can.
Yeah. So traction has been encouraging. I mean, that's what we established right at the beginning of when we started out, right? The whole traction, people have started calling us, people who are not even in the sales funnel any longer. They have started contacting again, hey, we met, and how about a new demo? So all those old connects also include developers. So in fact, we are doing a project for a Chicago-based developer right now, somebody who's been our customer and a very happy one. So we got a new project as of just a few weeks back, 3 weeks back, that let's get started in the next project, and this has happened right bang in the middle of peak lockdown. So but it's a services-based support. It's not a product-based support. The product-based support for Trezi is a separate traction altogether, but that traction is seeing, the upsurge is happening because of the architects sitting at home and architects wanting to collaborate. So Trezi's collaborative offerings have really piqued the interest in people in terms of, hey, now we can meet over the cloud and be inside a model as virtual avatars and engage with each other in terms of finalizing a design process. So that's the product side of the SaaS product side of things. But even the services side, developers have the amount of queries that we have got over the past 6 weeks from real estate developers in terms of virtualizing their existing properties. Of course, I mean, Aryan can talk about the virtual site visits. That's not our forte. That's not for me to comment on. But virtualizing their existing properties and helping them engage with customers it's phenomenal. It's like it was something that we thought that world has had enough of, and it would probably not revive itself. And I think from every metro in the country, we've had about 10 plus queries in terms of properties that need to be virtualized and be sold through use of immersive tech.
So you think this future of the space selling the demand will increase more even if the lockdown lifts up, even once everything get normalized?
I used to, and allow me my founder bias, of course, I used to say that with a lot of bias, but I used to keep telling folks that, India in particular has not understood the benefits of immersive technology the way other parts of the world has, and that is primarily because we've got various idiosyncrasies that we have to deal with and some realities, so idiosyncrasies around, hey, why should I wear a headset? Yeah, can I not see it on the phone, or cannot not engage in an immersive manner with the computer screen? No, you cannot. If you want to be immersed in an environment, you have to have the necessary headgear, along with it to go with it. So that reality is now dawning upon people that maybe it's time to kind of not invest in those big fancy screens that get put in experience centers. Maybe it's time to invest in VR kits. But the reality also is that in these times, we will have now situations where more of these devices will be needed, because people will get extremely nervous putting their headset into a headset when somebody else has worn it. That's what we are going to be faced with. So there are going to be newer concerns that we will have to kind of respond to. But absolutely no denying the fact that this is a technology that has immense value, and any real estate developer who wishes to kind of ensure that the sales continue should look at immersive technology as a potential solution, because I say it as somebody from, not as just purely a founder, now also as a real estate / architecture / engineering sort of a professional, that the time that I've spent in the profession, it is common sense that somebody gets to experience the space before they buy it. And it may not always be possible for people to be moving around and jumping on a plane and coming to see a property anymore. I've got a friend and a co-panelist this evening. He's the founder and president for India Sotheby's, and we are talking extensively about taking those prime properties and virtualizing them. So they are also waking up to the whole relevance of AR and VR in their process of selling. So if there is any real estate developer who may not be big time right now, but that's the aspiration, please do look at this. It doesn't have to be Trezi, it doesn't have to be Totality, but please look at immersive technology, because that is the way I see the real estate sell happening in the immediate future, not in the distant future.
Aryan, like Gautam pointed out very clearly, like if I visit any sale office, there's a huge experience center, right? And they say, okay, once you see the experience center, after that we'll take you and show you the actual flat or the sample flat. In our earlier webinars also, the developers have made it very clear that no matter how much technology will come, when it comes to Indian buyers, they want to have a look and feel of the actual flat. They want to see it in person, no matter how much you show in technology. So I feel there's still more of the awareness, or maybe more of a hesitance in the part of the industry. But do you think this can change and this can become the future, where virtual site visits are more happening even if the lockdown is there or not?
Yeah. So just to break down this whole thing into two parts. One, the impact of virtual site visits, and the second one, will it be the norm in coming future? So I remember when the e-commerce started its first bit in India, it was only limited to the products like books, because you don't need to touch a book and then experience it before buying it. Because if you know the subject, you know the author, you will buy it, and it's completely fine. Later on, what happened is, slowly and steadily, each and every product became like a thing wherein you just go to an online store, purchase it, and you get it. You need not go and experience the product, not even the white good appliances. And same has been the case with certain two-wheelers and four-wheelers as well. Similarly, it is not something that virtual booking of online booking of a real estate property, which is one of the biggest purchase of a lifetime, will happen instantaneously. But to make sure that this thing will work out is in a way when there's a person who has already experienced that particular property one time, but was thinking of making a purchase. Now, in order to make that purchase, he need not repeat the site visit again, but he has made the decision and he just need to do the process. That particular process can be obviously digitized. What we are seeing right now is due to this lockdown, more and more offers are being floated by developers, because they are also facing the cash burn. And obviously that is giving a benefit for the fence sitters who are thinking or contemplating of making the next purchase. Now they are jumping on the thing, coming to a virtual site visit, taking a communication with particular sales agent virtually, and making the booking. Just to give an idea from our own sales platform, yesterday we that was for the developer, it was the day 3, and they already saw 8 bookings happening from the platform itself, which was not even thought of ki it will pick up this fast. The communication is one thing, making the site visit. Now the main part is, what's the difference between a physical site visit and a virtual site visit? In physical site visit, most of the developers right now have sample flats to show, but that's not something which has 100% totality. What happens is, sometimes they have sample flats, sometimes they have a scaled model. So when you do a site visit, you are not actually visiting a flat, you are just getting the glimpse of the whole product, and you are having a particular person who is explaining you the product. Now, similar, if that can be done via virtual, via an audio call, via an virtual site visit, it is almost equivalent to it. So what we are doing is, to be frank, our virtual runway, the idea was, as a product pipeline, it was to initiate in October this year. But just because of this COVID and the rise in the demand, we had to prepone our plans and have to launch in March itself, and which is seeing the traction, obviously. And I'm damn sure that if like this is the traction right now they are seeing, the cost per site visit has reduced down drastically for them. So previously, the per site visit, they were spending approximately say 20,000 rupees for a site visit. Now that cost is reduced down to 3,000 to 4,000. Now consider if that they are having almost equivalent or 50% lesser conversion rate also, then also they are getting a good benefit on cost per site visit. Now that is one thing which even the real estate developer will keep in mind, because the money saved, like someone said, the money earned is money earned. So whenever the money is being saved, and whether it is virtual site visit, they would obviously want to go ahead with it. So virtual site visit, I'm not saying that it will like completely take away the physical site visit, but yes, in coming 2 or 3 years, that will become the main ingredient.
Also, Aryan, I wanted to know, in real estate future selling, like right now we have few attendees who are from the broker side. So in future real estate selling, will you also bring cost-effective sales and marketing tools, even virtual tools, keeping virtual runway in mind, that can help brokers?
Sure. So the benefit of virtual site visit is it is equivalently accessible to a channel partner and to a developer. Before that, what was the scenario is sample flat can be built by a developer. A channel partner cannot develop it. Over here, now with the availability of the data, availability of all the floor plans, all the 3D virtual tools, all the 3D 360 virtual shoots available, even the channel partner can set up their own virtual sales channel, and can the virtual site visit can take an expression of interest via the online booking platforms and make the sale right away. This helps reduce down the gestation period. It also helps them reduce down the competition, because like each and every channel partner's biggest problem is the client they have taken to a site visit. Sometimes they visit with another channel partner and they lose down on the sales and commission, which can be drastically reduced by making it virtual site visit and immediate like EOI. So yes, virtual site visit is far more beneficial to a channel partner right now, because now they will be also able to give the same site visit experience, which are in normal scenario only real estate developer used to like provide.
Gautam, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think most of the points have been covered. I mean, you know, the technology will also become one more, how to put it? I mean, it's fairly easy to use. It's not that it's not easy to use, but at least it'll become user friendly. You know, it'll become the needs that you mentioned. You know, will there be virtual widgets, virtual gadgets around which property sale, which will get incorporated in the process of property sale? I think it will be, yeah, because as I think Chetan had picked up a very important point that if people use technology, they are able to provide feedback for the product to start improving itself and become more and more relevant to our day-to-day way of working. You know, so as people start using the platforms and the data-driven approaches that Rohan and Sandeep are building, Facilio goes mainstream and gets the kind of critical mass that it's looking for. I think you will keep seeing improvements in the product, and then the relevant tools, tackles that are required for the platforms to kind of respond to a day-to-day need will start making its presence felt. So yeah, I mean that's all I have to add. You know, so products will keep improving, they will keep getting more relevant, but first and foremost, the biggest thing that has to happen for that is for people to use it and provide feedback to product teams like ourselves for us to keep improving upon and making the product more and more relevant on a day-to-day basis for the users. You know.
Chetan, I wanted to ask, you know, how developers can use your platform in terms as you are already bringing, you know, global experience. Can your platform help them deliver effective solution at optimal price points?
See, Kritika, what happens is that developers can save time and cost by using ArcChat. And of course, it's free for them. So I'm not trying to put any commercial angles into this. How the time gets saved and the cost gets saved is that when you are able to work seamlessly, if there is less confusion at the site, at the designer level, and at the developer owner level, what he wants to build. So the communication is the very, very important aspect. You know, when a large or even a small development project is happening, if you start counting the number of emails and a number of WhatsApp messages which happen, they will run into lakhs and maybe in crores. And all of them are fragmented. Even the content is fragmented. Content is fragmented into different computers. They are at different places. And so the responses become very, very slow. So ArcChat in a very simple manner helps them bring all their teams and all their stakeholders together so that while they are developing the project, they are able to develop it much easily. And they have their projects right in their mobiles. So it's not necessary that they have to have a computer or something. They are right in their mobiles. Even the smallest site supervisor who can't speak a word of English can also collaborate through ArcChat. Because as I told earlier that it has multilingual capability. So like if I'm a site supervisor and I can't write English or speak English, I will say, Babuji, drawing bhej dijiye. And the guy who is receiving it will get it in English. Please send me the drawings. Or he will be able to click a site picture and will be able to share with the design team how do I build it, because I have a confusion here with the site versus the drawings, because there is always a gap between the drawings and the site. Another problem which comes up into the construction industry, which everybody knows, is that the version problem is there always. If the wrong drawings get picked up for the construction and the changes have happened. So these things get eliminated completely because everybody is on the same page. And second thing is that ArcChat also brings content with the communication. So that means that a developer is having his design library right inside ArcChat and would be able to use that. His team will be able to use it. But then ArcChat is primarily for design and construction phase. It is not for the sale phase. So I will not say that the ArcChat will help them in any way when it comes to selling of their properties to the end users are concerned. But during the design and construction phase, it's a great platform. Another thing is, since the content is there, there are product sellers from all over the world. So they may be able to pick up some products which may be cost effective, but great. And they will be able to communicate with those sellers and bring them onto their project. And at the end of the day, any project is built up of two things. One is the creativity of the architect, and second is a great product. So the kind of kitchen I'm using, the kind of fan I'm using, the kind of flooring I'm using makes a great impact, big impact on the sellability of the project. So it's a great platform to be used and try it out. And then, as the Gautam said, that we have to have the feedback from the people, and then we are there to keep improving as per their specific needs and requirements.
So we are running out of time. I'll take one last question, and after that, I'll start with the live attendees questions. I can see Prabhu has already started replying to them. So the last question for me is for Rohan. Rohan, we were discussing about land records, right? What kind of challenges we need to know, what other challenges you're facing right now in land records, because we know it's not structured right now. The data is still missing in some parts, in some states. So you feel there can be technology helping this challenge to be overcome, and what is your inputs on this?
In terms of land records in India, the issue is basically it's a legacy-based problem. Like records are fairly old. If you look do a comparison, let's say with developed countries, especially the ones which have a Torrens title system, which essentially gives you conclusive title, and the state compensates you for any error or discrepancy in the title. The reason why they have such clean title is because they're new settlements. So, for example, Australia has the Torrens title system going back to 1871 or 72. The reason why records are so clear is because the colonists landed over there and they divided the plots into equal sizes and then maintained the records from that particular point of time. That is not the case in a country like India. For example, Delhi has been continuously inhabited for 1300 years, and so the original record from Delhi would go back to say 7th century, and then the British came, they changed it. So that is, the legacy issues are a constant challenge. The second challenge is that a lot of times land is essentially very hyper local in terms of the politics that are played out. So it's in the interest of state governments to restrict transferability of certain parcels of land or allow transferability of certain parcels of land. So the rules and regulations keep changing quite frequently. So you really need to have a tab on what rules and regulations would apply. So, for example, the Delhi Development Authority will come out with a master plan 2021, but over the course of implementation of the master plan, there will be like so many changes regarding which street is mixed use, which street can be land use, and that is not necessarily driven by logical, rational considerations. It's driven more by political interest. So you have to continuously keep those keep that part of data also in mind when you're actually interpreting the records. As far as technology is there, I sincerely, the reason why we started the company was because we sincerely believe that we can definitely make a big difference in terms of how people will ultimately interpret the records, how they'll be made searchable and give access to information. We're already developing large-scale extraction pipelines where we ingest huge amounts of data from ports, huge amounts of data from different government websites which have published land. We also have a very, very robust cleaning pipeline and translation pipeline where we're able to make sense of a lot of the documents which are necessarily in Hindi or Urdu, and they relate to land records. So, I mean, I think the issue is solvable, but the main challenge will come in how will you essentially enforce standardization, because the way a document is registered in Uttar Pradesh or where a land record is, for example, I'll give you an example of Delhi NCR. So if you take Delhi NCR, you're dealing with Delhi, which is a completely different, which in itself will have 7 different regulatory bodies which are maintaining different pieces of information regarding land parcels. In Greater Noida is a different authority altogether. Noida Authority is completely different. Yamuna Expressway Development Authority is completely different. In Ghaziabad, then you have the Ghaziabad Development Authority and the Ghaziabad Municipal Corporation. Over and above that, you have the UP Stamps and Registration Department and the different district courts there. In Haryana, again, you are dealing with Gurgaon and then Faridabad, a lot of the areas of Bahadurgarh where you'll have Huda, but then you'll have Gurgaon Municipal Corporation. The Haryana Town and Country Planning will have totally different rules and regulations altogether. So there's a lot of hodgepodge of information that is there out in the public domain. So to standardize it is going to be a challenge, because within the same city, people are maintaining records differently pertaining to the same property. So you'll find addresses where you'll have the name stored in a different way by the South Delhi Municipal Corporation, and if there is a transaction deed vis-a-vis that same property, the name and the address will be written in a completely different format. So yeah, that is a challenge, but I mean, that's why we entered this space, because we thought that, okay, it's a challenge technologically, intellectually also it's a challenge, because you run into like new issues every day regarding rules, regulations and laws. And finally, we come from this philosophical school of thought where like John Locke said that right to property is the most fundamental right, and every individual should have access to land that he can leverage it for many like purposes. So, I mean, we sincerely believe that we can solve the problem, and like we are the team to solve it. So, yeah.
Great.
Leave it at that.
So I'll start taking attendees' question now, and from there, Mridanjali will take over for online questions. My first question is for Prabhu from Ganeshan. Facility operations has been slow in tech adoption and with highly manual processes. Do you think real estate owners will move towards tech now? And if yes, what will be their high priority?
Yeah. So if you look at any business, either it is real estate or bank or anyone, couple of top priority now is one is to reduce their operational cost, and second one is to not to lose their existing paying customer. Even before you go and acquire more, you should try not to lose existing paying customers. So our solution impacts directly both of this. We help customers to reduce energy, reduce make their workforce better. So that is an operational cost reduction there. Plus, we also help them to with our new like COVID specific features we have already rolled out, like touchless sanitization schedules, giving live updates to tenants. So we are helping real estate companies to make sure their existing tenants and occupants are comfortably able to come and use the properties. So in that way, definitely like we become a key part of the strategy for real estate companies to operate post COVID. So we are seeing increase, as I mentioned earlier, we are seeing increased pull effect for our solution from market across the globe.
My next question is for the company in immersive technology. In a post-COVID-19, do you think the demand for residential and commercial real estate in India will see a shift away from Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities? If this is the case, how do you think your solutions are oriented towards addressing this new demand, often beyond Tier 1 and 2 cities? And how much of an investment has already been channeled to these locations? And if you guys want to see, you can open the chat box. I know it's a pretty long question, so please go through it. And please, whoever wants to take this up,
So from an immersive tech perspective and the availability of immersive tech in Tier 1, Tier 2 cities, first and foremost, I do not know whether demand will increase in Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 2, Tier 3 cities. You know, I'm not a real estate pundit. I cannot make a comment on that. But will the technology be available? Yes, absolutely. It's Trezi is a cloud-based product. Tier 3, Tier 4 cities, if you want to get to, you'll get Trezi there as well. Just as a case in point, during the lockdown, we have been able to help architects in Siliguri, Mizoram. There have been multiple places where people saw that their work had to continue. They had the need of work continuing, and they downloaded Trezi and they're working on it. You know, so that gives me a great level of satisfaction. You know, because yes, the big architectural firms, they have the necessary budgets in their annual planning that they can invest in new software. But when a two-man team in Siliguri downloads Trezi and works with it, yes, absolutely, it's a fascinating validation of the hypothesis that we built the product with. You know, they also have the necessary hardware through the association that we have with HP now. So I think that should answer the question.
Chetan, Naren, do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, so like with Totality, we do understand that though we, when we're designing, we obviously considered the metro markets and the Tier 1 cities. But as we started to progress, we got a good amount of interest from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities as well. Right now, multiple meetings, online meetings are happening for the demo. And we can understand that Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities have far more better pull for this particular system, because first they always knew about the technology, they never experimented with it. With metro cities and stuff, they have already multiple technologies already being implemented, so they are more skeptical of implementing new technology now. But when it comes to Tier 2 and Tier 3, they are virgin markets, and hence for them it becomes far more easier penetration. And hence I think that yes, Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities will see far more bigger traction.
Okay. So the next question is for Gautam from Nikhil Kumar, co-founder of Infonia. His question is, immersive VR solution needs inducers to wear a VR headset? Is there an impact in adoption as end users would be skeptic to wear VR headset already used by many, many unknown users out there?
Yeah, so we touched upon this while on one of the tracks that Kritika had kind of picked up, right? Yes, absolutely. That's a new challenge that's come our way. We have to kind of address that. But the benefits of working on an agile product is that you get a chance to respond to any such emergencies that kind of impact your product sales. So one, we have responded to that by kind of creating a intuitive desktop-based offering of Trezi, which may not necessarily mean that you only need to work with the headset. But interestingly, to respond to Nikhil's question, interestingly, we have started witnessing that large organizations have started investing in more number of headsets. So instead of feeling scared that one person has to wear, 5 people have to wear one headset, people have started investing in 5 headsets. So that's in the face of an adversity comes an opportunity. I think that's the new one that's come our way.
Great. So I'm closing the questions from the live attendees. There are a few questions unanswered. If the panelists want to answer these questions, like Prabhu has already gone ahead and answered, please do that. Mridanjali will take online questions now.
Thank you very much, Kritika. So I will take the online questions now. My first question is for Mr. Chetan Singh. Krishna Kant from Mumbai is asking, sir, that I am a budding architect. How can I promote myself and get business via RChat? My company and its solutions are effective, but getting paid affairs without a big portfolio is a task. How can RChat help?
See, what happens is that ArcChat has 2 things to offer. One thing is easy collaboration between stakeholders. And another very, very important aspect of it is getting new business. So how do the new business comes in? First of all, to get the new business, one has to do their branding. And how is the branding and how is the awareness is today happening is through social media. So social media means that people are architects. I'm talking typically about architects. They publish, they post their designs on Instagram, they post their designs on Facebook or maybe on LinkedIn also. So in ArcChat also, you can publish your designs, articles, or even videos, which are seen by thousands and maybe lakhs of others worldwide. So that helps you start getting to create awareness about you, that you exist in the world, number one. And number 2 thing is that all architects and designers, they can publish their services on ArcChat. And the published services can be unlimited number of services. So say, for example, if I'm talking about myself, like a Chetan, if I am good in drafting, then I would publish a service that, okay, look, I will draft your drawings for you. And then a European or American architect would look at my offerings, would look at my ArcChat postings, which I have done about my designs, etc. And then would start communicating with me. Okay, how much will it cost to if I give you my drafting, and I can do that. And once the commercials are agreed, which are out of the preview of ArcChat, because ArcChat doesn't get into commercials, and then he will assign me the work. And once he assigns me the work, then he will invite me and be a part of his project. So that whatever concepts he's building, he will do the sketches. They will come to me automatically. I will do the drafting activity. Then I will upload it up there, and they will become part of the room of which the drafting has been done. This is one example. Another example could be that I am an architect in, say, Surat, and somebody wants to build a property in Surat, maybe a project in Surat, a larger architect, and he would appoint me as a local architect there. And similar opportunities could happen for the engineering consultants, could be for the contractors, because people want the teams to come in. So they can connect with each other and they can bring themselves together to collaborate right on the platform itself. So that opens the cross-border, collaborations in a big way. And then many of them, some of them have also forged the strategic collaborations, like two architects combining that, okay, you are there in Italy and I'm here in India. Why don't we have a strategic collaboration? So one can do a strategic collaboration. Some part of my work you do and some part of the work I will do. So that's what is happening. So that's what is the answer to the question.
All right, thank you. So next question is how can Totality help brokers? So this question is from Mr. Ramesh Pillai, Mumbai. Mr. Aryan, please let us know.
So Totality in itself is a combined platform for virtual site visits. It acts as a CRM. It acts as your site visit management tool. So for channel partners too, we have a similar solution. So at Totality, what will happen is all the leads which they flow in or come on a daily basis, they can keep a regular track of it. They can do a regular follow-ups. They can check their records, keep a proper track of whatever communication has been done till date, have an inventory of sort wherein they can see which particular person has been to which particular sites, which are the other sites they can be pitched to. In a way, like managing their whole CRM in this particular place, wherein and in future we are also going to integrate more tools to help channel partners to manage their lead generation as well from the same platform. So with this Totality, I guess the channel partners can reduce down their cost of acquisition for the customers as well, like what the real estate developers are being able to do.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we'll take the last question. How Teal and PropStack have different business models? Can we subscribe to only one, or data field provided by both are any different? So this question is from Vishakha from Bangalore. So Mr. Rohan, would you like to take it first?
So yeah, as far as our business model is concerned, we're still experimenting on a few models with lenders, and we really don't have a consumer side right now, which I believe PropStack has. PropStack has, I think, a bigger data offering for real estate developers and private equity funds. We're not really focused on that. Our focus is primarily been on land records as of now, and essentially information that can tell you on how risky a property will be, and whether the land parcel will be, and whether in terms of a foreclosure proceeding, a bank or a lending institution will be able to sell it without any hassle, right? So what we're looking at is essentially whether the mutation has taken place in the right manner or not, whether there's any litigation on the particular parcel of land in any revenue courts or in any district court or high court, or any particular tribunal like the debt recovery tribunal or the appellate tribunal. So we're focusing on that. Our business model, since we're a year and a half old, we're still experimenting with different models with lending institutions and third-party API service providers. So we're hoping to get a hold on the right model for us, and always a continuous experimentation which we have to do. So yeah, so and as far as regular consumers are concerned, we don't have a consumer product right now. We have a B2B product.
So from a PropStack perspective, if you are a institutional user, be it a developer, a lender, or a fund, you can log on to PropStack, register, and our sales team will reach out to you with our packages that are there from a subscription perspective. If you are an individual and are looking for addressing residential transactions in the market in Bangalore, we have a platform called Zapkey, zapkey.com, in which you can log in and see in a particular building a transaction that has happened and what are the details of the transaction. So these are two platforms.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. So Kritika, would you like to add something?
No, I think we are running out of time. So thank you so much, everyone, to come on board for this discussion. And I'm sure our viewers must have got great insights, and especially when it comes to technology. And I think more conversation like this needs to happen on day-to-day basis, because this kind of awareness needs to be put out there. So thank you, everyone. I would like to personally thank each and every individual panelist who has come up for this particular topic. Thank you.
So
thank you so much. Yeah.
thank you to all the speakers.
Thanks for having us. Thanks. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
So thank you to all the speakers for the great insights. Thank you, Kritika. Thank you to all the attendees for joining us. If you have any questions related to the topic, you can always write to us at info@realitynxt.com. This webinar has been recorded. For few people who missed the webinar, we will upload the webinar on our social media channels, Reality NXT. This event is brought to you by Reality NXT. This is Mridanjali Raval signing off.